What does real learning actually look like? Today, we're going to follow one student's amazing journey from a single, simple question to a really deep understanding of how our complex world fits together. It's a fascinating look at the power of thinking in systems. So this is where it all starts, right? We're going to see how one little spark of curiosity can totally ignite an adventure, transforming a student from someone who just gets information into someone who really questions it and connects it all together. And this was the jumping off point. The idea itself was pretty big, but, manageable. How does climate affect ecosystems? The first thoughts were simple enough. Rain is good for soil, a drought is bad for it. But that basic idea became the perfect springboard for a much, much deeper dive. Now, to bring some order to this huge topic, the student used a pretty clever tool to find her way through all the complexity. She started with a framework she called the question triangle. This shows you exactly how she organized her thinking. First, up at step 1, she asked what questions, just to get the basic facts down. Then she moved over to step 2, asking how questions to figure out the processes and systems at play. And finally, she got to the big one, step 3, the why questions, thinking about the real meaning and impact. Each step just pushed her to go deeper and deeper. This is where the real shift happened. The goal wasn't just to gather information anymore. Instead of just being handed answers, some critical feedback pushed her to think for herself, to actually analyze what she was finding instead of just, collecting a pile of articles. And would you look at the results? With a solid plan, she started uncovering these powerful, super specific examples. All of a sudden, this abstract idea of climate change was linked to risotto in Italy, political chaos in Haiti. It got real, fast. This is that moment of truth in any real learning journey, isn't it? The student actually paused and thought about her own thinking. She realized that having a list of cool but totally disconnected facts, well, it just wasn't enough. This is called metacognition, and it was the turning point for everything that came next. So she knew she had to switch things up. She needed to move from a simple list to something way more powerful. She had to start seeing the connections between all her facts. This one little piece of feedback changed everything. I mean, it's such a simple observation, but it held the key to unlocking a whole new level of understanding. A list is static. It just sits there. But a cycle? A cycle is dynamic. It's alive. It shows how things really interact. And just look at the difference. On the left, you've got a collection of isolated facts. But on the right, now you have a system. The student could see that climate change messes with nutrient cycles, which then hits crop health, which in turn impacts human society. All the pieces were suddenly connected in this living, breathing system. So here's the crucial part. The student didn't just fix her work. She could explain exactly why this new way was better. And these are her own words. She got it, that connecting the ideas as a cycle was the only way to see how they truly relate and influence each other. She was basically setting her own higher standards now. And then something really remarkable happened. She wasn't just doing an assignment anymore. She was starting to think like a real scholar. She made this incredible, spontaneous connection that went way beyond what the project was even about. She reached all the way back to a topic she had mastered months before, ancient Mesopotamia. Without any prompting at all, she saw this deep contrast. For an ancient civilization, seasonal flooding was the very source of life and wealth. But today, similar big shifts in the environment often lead to catastrophic destruction. I mean, wow, she was connecting dots across centuries and subjects. And that's the key, right there. This wasn't about following a checklist anymore. She was putting knowledge together all on her own. She had basically become her own teacher. So what does that final evolution really look like? Well, by the end of this whole process, the student wasn't just a student anymore. She had transformed into a truly independent researcher. She was now able to ask her own really smart, tough questions. She was setting her own high standards for her work, and she could make these incredible, sweeping connections. This whole journey, from that one question to this deep, interconnected map of the world, this is the very essence of authentic learning. It's not about memorizing facts. It's about building a way of thinking so you can understand how all those facts fit together. And that brings us right back to the beginning, doesn't it? This entire journey kicked off with just one question. So the only thing left to ask is, what's yours?